morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the day 2 of the Nextv series Europe and CEE 2020. We hope that you had an insightful session yesterday. And for today, we have planned a packed agenda for the day. So I'll now give you a broad overview of today's session. So we'll be starting with the broadcaster's OTT D2C strategy. Then we have the mastering the tech, how to reduce complexity in TV offering with operators tiers on Android TV, Apple TV, and Smart TV. Moving on, we'll have a session on Android migration, demystifying the challenge of integration and rollout. Then we have the pay TV addressable advertising opportunity. Then we'll have a session on OTT delivery of the potential of Apple TV. Moving on, we'll have a session on implementing pay TV in the era of cloud. So we'll have a case study. And how to tap in Smart TV full potential, and we'll be ending with the transformation of news distribution in Europe. So to kickstart day 2 of the conference, we have the pleasure to welcome Pierre-Adrian Irlé, project lead Play Suisse. So it's from the Swiss radio and television. Then we have Arturo Larrainzar Garijo, strategy director of Atresmedia, and Ricardo Tomé, head of digital media capital digital. To moderate this panel, we have the pleasure to welcome Jörn Krieger, who is a freelance journalist. So Jörn, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Priscilla, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone, to this second day of the Nextv series Europe and CEE, the very first conference today. And so I'm very happy to introduce 3 important people from 3 important markets in Europe. And one is very special because they've just launched an OTT service. So I'd like to welcome first Pierre from Swiss public broadcaster SRG SSR. They've just launched Play Suisse, a new streaming service. So it'll be very interesting to see what will be the first experiences they've made with this very new streaming service and one of the latest new products in the European OTT world. Welcome, Pierre.
Good morning, everyone.
Then looking at Spain, we have Arturo from Atresmedia, a big Spanish media company. He's the head of strategy there. And we're going to hear about the Spanish OTT market and the services that Atresmedia is offering there. Welcome, Arturo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Then we have Ricardo from Media Capital Digital in Portugal, big important media company. He's the head of digital, and we're going to hear all about the Portuguese streaming market and services that Media Capital are offering. Good morning, Ricardo.
Hi, everyone. Olá a todos from Lisboa.
Great. Let's get started. A quick introduction. As you all know, streaming is gaining importance. There is new streaming services launching across Europe almost every day, both in the AVOD and SVOD area. And it's hard to keep track with all these new services. But what's very important is, of course, the role that the classic broadcasters are playing in this market. It's not just about new players entering the market. It's also interesting to see what the legacy players are doing. And there are all sorts of different strategies, different challenges, and different conclusions that they're taking. And so I'm very interested in hearing about them from these 3 key players in Europe. I'd like to hear first about the strategies and challenges in the OTT market you've been faced with when launching new services. Pierre, let's start with you first, because your service is the latest one. You've started with Play Suisse on November the 7th. So just let me think, 11 days ago. And what was the market like in Switzerland when you started the service? And obviously being one of the latest starters, you had kind of probably different challenges compared with the other players.
For sure. Thank you very much. The market in Switzerland is a little bit peculiar because we have 4 national languages, out of which 3 are languages from markets that are already very strong in their OTT offering and content proposition: Germany, France, and Italy. So for us in Switzerland, we're basically over flooded by the content proposition from the other countries, but the strength of the public broadcaster is really the local content proposition. This is where we believe we have a place in the landscape. We have a spot to claim. And as of today, neither Netflix, Apple, Sky, or HBO has really invested in Swiss content. Nevertheless, the audience in Switzerland is very keen to watch content that is coming from its own producers, culture, and roots. And this is the place that we decided to claim in the landscape. And of course, one of the challenge for us being a broadcaster is, first of all, to build an innovation project from the ground up that is completely disconnected from the linear proposition and the programming. So we build a digital programming from the ground up, and we also build new tools from the ground up, meaning that, of course, the audience is expecting the quality of Netflix and Apple when opening an app on every platform. And of course, the public broadcaster in a country like Switzerland is pretty basically not does not have the same resource, let's put it that way. So to meet those expectations with basically what we can actually do in a company like ours was a very big challenge. And we basically set up the project like a startup in the group that was very independent, very agile, very free to work in its own way. We broke from the traditional bureaucracy and ways of managing projects to really do really our own things. And I think that those were challenges we had to overcome.
So it's the local angle that's been your advantage. And obviously still, despite being a new player, being in line with the kind of user experience that the experienced players in these OTT markets have been offering. Obviously, that is, I think, quite an interesting approach. But looking at Spain, Arturo, obviously, when you were launching your OTT services, it's been different. And what were the strategies and challenges you were faced with?
Yeah, I think that what happened in Spain is that maybe some kind of the environment was totally different than the one that you can have, for example, in other countries of Europe, as Pierre has said. We share some challenges, but for example, the local proposition, the Spanish market, we traditionally have had strong local content. And actually, I think that it was one of the main strengths that the broadcasters have right now or have had for the last years. One of the main challenges for us was actually the fact that the Spanish market was not thinking about paying or not used to pay for content. I think the Spanish market has been one of the toughest one for the pay TV market across Europe. We usually had the lowest take-up. For us, the main challenge was the change the mindset of the broadcasters, understanding that we used to have a business that was running just based on advertising, because we give for our viewers good local content for free, and we in exchange had the advertising revenues. But right now, what have happened is that the SVOD services have pushed these new kind of customers that are open to pay for the content, that they are more reluctant to see advertising. So we have to change our content. And at the end, it ends up in a similar challenge that the one that Pierre has said. That is, the being able to do original content independent from the linear TV window. You know, we understand that we have to run our business as usual, but we have to dedicate some kind of resources and we have to dedicate some kind of budgets to do original content that is just exploited on the SVOD or the pay TV business, I would say.
So you can see some similarities already, despite the quite different time frames you had, Ricardo, in Portugal with Media Capital. What was the situation like in the OTT market when you launched your services, and what were the challenges?
So, well, again, the context is really important when you are defining strategy, definitely. In Portugal, we already have many years now a full market with good penetration by cable, and besides that there is a good penetration on OTT services by cable. So most customers in all the households, they have a good service by the telcos, so they can review the content that was aired on dozens of channels for 7 days with almost or definitely no extra cost. So again, our approach was having in mind, number one, let's separate two different markets. So one market will be the Portuguese market, and there is another different strategy for the international market. Well, for adapting to the international market, we are clearing all the rights for the local Portuguese content we air. For the national offering, for now, we are mostly focused on AVOD. And inside AVOD, our main difference is on the catch-up service. So despite being like the old school OTT, we are developing, like Arturo and Pierre, what we can do in the original programming, but also how can we maximize the experience on the huge amount of audience that we have on the linear, because we have a lot of novellas, a lot of TV, sports being aired, a lot of great entertainment and reality shows. So basically, those are the angles that we are working on. How can we develop a better experience in the programs we already have? Plus, what can we do with archives and original programming? So these are the top three orientations for local, for the national strategy.
I can already see that despite SRG being a public broadcaster and Atresmedia and Media Capital obviously being commercial operators, there is a similarity, and that concerns the content, local content, and exclusive content that's very much in your focus of strategy to combat the challenges in the OTT market, especially when you're looking at the big players like Amazon and Netflix, Disney Plus, and so on. And that obviously can be explained through you coming from the broadcaster side of the industry. And that is obviously the cards that you're playing, the trumps you have. Let's look at the viewers, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's the viewers who have to decide whether to subscribe to a service, whether to use the service or not. What is your strategy regarding your viewers? Do you rather want to attract viewers that are new, like say a young, new audience that hasn't had that much engagement with the classic legacy broadcasters, the linear broadcasters? Or do you say, no, I'd rather want to keep my traditional viewers that used to be tied to the linear channels and offer them something additional? So is it about, with your OTT services, about winning new viewers or keeping the old ones? Pierre, as you've just launched yours a couple of days ago, I'm sure these have been thoughts you have had.
Yes, I'm sorry. It looks like my connection seems to be unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Have you understood the question?
Great. Yes,
okay,
sure.
Great.
So for us, So for us, of course, the challenge was twofold. On the one hand, we need to reach our existing audience, which has a relationship with our brands, our linear channel brands, catch-up services, websites, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, there is a share of the audience that we are trying to reach, though that is basically people who have either lost a relationship with the broadcaster, going on to international OTT services, just leaving basically the playground of their local broadcaster, and people who have never had a relationship with the local broadcaster, speaking about younger generations. And what's very interesting in the first feedbacks we got in the past few days is that we're getting emails from people that are either young people that said that they are paying the license fee every year, but that until today, they were not basically using any of the service that they were providing on the broadcaster's services. And that now they're pleased to have a platform and an app besides the other apps that are existing already. And on the other hand, I got a message from a 77-year-old member of the audience that said that he was fascinated about the platform and the offering, and spent half of the night looking at the catalog. So it really shows the span of what the reach that we can have with a new approach, a new product, a new approach to our programming and our catalog, displaying things that are coming from the past, but are basically looking at the programming in a new light. So we're seeing programs from years ago that are being watched over and over now, just because they're classified differently, just because they're exposed differently and made available in the languages of our users.
That's interesting. So it's a hybrid approach, both keeping the old viewers and offering them something new, and attracting new viewers that have always thought, why am I paying this license fee? Well, what's the reason for? And finally realizing there is some benefit in it. Arturo, is it the same experience you've made in Spain?
Yeah, I think that I mostly agree with Pierre, and I'm sure that I will agree also with Ricardo. I think that this hybrid model has two big points. Regarding the traditional viewers that we already had, it's about price discrimination. You know, every other brand do price discrimination, Nike, Adidas. You think? So broadcasters actually would do with this hybrid model is about try to give to our different viewers different range of prices. You know that there is a big bunch of viewers that they are open to look it for free in exchange of advertisements, but the truth is that these changes in the behavior patterns has opened a new market that we really don't know if it's a niche market or it's a mass market, by which, you know, some people are open to pay for content. They don't want to see advertising. So actually, you know, the revenue per viewer can be even higher. So you have to discriminate viewers. And the other point is that in the moment that you have this hybrid approach, you can do content actually for some kind of targets that through traditional TV we just thrown out, you know, some years ago. If you think about the younger viewers, the truth is that programming for actually just for younger viewers, you know, there's a big trade-off about what you could program for other bigger targets. So actually, you know, that's a vicious circle by which, you know, traditional TVs has been, you know, throwing out the younger profiles from the linear TV. So these hybrid models, you know, let us to broadcasters to approach to maximize value of our current audiences and try to target new audiences. And just you know, to end, I think the big strength that we have, you know, as broadcasters, again, any other kind of alternative, is that we have, you know, a big funnel of conversion. You think about Atresmedia. Atresmedia have like 30 million users per month that come to some of our properties, or 4 million per month that come to Atresplayer of the free basis. So we have a big funnel, you know, of conversion by which we can manage this price discrimination if we do it smart in a smart way. I think it can be successful.
So making it easier for both existing and new target groups to discover your content is probably a strategy that's similar between all these operators. This reminds me, because we've just had a question coming in, that please do submit your questions through the message form, and we are happy to respond to them. You're probably familiar with this. This is the second day of the conference. We have a question for Arturo. I'm sure you can quickly respond to that. Atresplayer Premium is recently doing very ambitious local productions such as Venero to secure the local relevance that Arturo was mentioning. Is this more a launch or ramp up strategy, or is this meant to be a long-standing approach, Arturo?
I will say definitely that this is a long-standing approach. I think Veneno has been a huge success in Spain. Obviously, we need some kind of killer format to relaunch our SVOD proposition. But we have committed some budget for the coming years just for original content, and I think we have good projects in the pipeline to do in the coming years. People from content, I think they are breaking their brains to be able to launch good IPs and good programs in our SVOD services. So I'm sure that we will give to this viewer a good content, original content in the coming years.
Okay, good to hear that. Ricardo, I'm sure you can sign that as well, that Media Capital is trying to win both existing and new viewers with your OTT approaches.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember that there must be different strategies. If you have an AVOD, you always try volume. So we have an hybrid model. So definitely in one side for the AVOD, we first approach the masses, and we still want to get the most people we can. That's why fiction is so important for us, as well as reality shows. So those are really two big pillars. I mean, there are three core types of content, and at least in Portugal. So it's sports, which is a totally different thing. I mean, there are specific OTTs for that, and you pay specific amount for that, specifically for soccer. And then you have fiction and reality shows. So those are the two big genres that we focus on, being wherever it's original or a 360 approach with specific content for cable, specific content for OTT, and the big program for the national antenna. But then on the subscription side, you have two types of content. So you have those which are the ones you really heavily promote, like Veneno in Atresmedia. So those are the capture content. Those will capture and make people really understand the value of the proposition. And then you have all the other content that makes people faithful for it. They will probably not pay because of the 20,000 catalog you have. They probably just move because of one really powerful, the big budget one, the ones everyone sees. So this is really important when you understand the SVOD. How can you maintain and retain people? So, and then you need to understand from the basis that you have in the subscription, what types of content do they like and they continue to watch, versus what's the 1, 2, or 3 top-notch, huge content. And never forgetting, we are learning around capturing in digital marketing campaigns. So we used to be very accustomed to big budgets in production, and then we have outdoors, and then we have our own promotion on the TV antenna. But it's a totally complementary new way of doing things in digital, because you need to be really tough on the newsletters, on the Google search, on social media, and generating a big word of mouth. And that's also a big investment we were not used to. So it's definitely IP is core, but then also the way you generate the buzz, how do you get to people to know? Because nowadays there is such a huge noise in a positive way, because so many products, so many OTTs, plus the TV channels.
So I can see it's basically a combination of both having a high profile top line content and the back catalog. And that combination kind of makes it for the OTT service. We've been talking a lot about the content side. There is one aspect we haven't focused on yet and that I'd like to address. That is exclusive content. Content that's been produced just for the OTT service, that has its debut on OTT and then might later on be offered on the classic linear broadcast channels. Pierre, obviously being restricted to the public broadcaster license scheme and regulation, still I'd like to know, is that something, exclusive content just for OTT, that is of interest for you? Is it something you are able to do? Or is it something where you say, no, the OTT platform Play Swiss that we've just launched is something where we just use and reuse existing content?
It's a good point, especially from the perspective of a public media, because we have some constraints that private media companies don't have. One of which, maybe the first one, we cannot do advertising on our online channels. Meanwhile, we have to show the sponsoring that we are and product placement in the beginning of our programs. When we have it in the channels, we have then to also show it in our player. And what does that mean is that there's a set of rules around that. One of which, if you have sponsored content, you cannot put it online earlier than 24 hours before the linear broadcast. And those are very broadcast-driven rules that we have to deal with as a public media. Nevertheless, what we do, what we see is that we have launched our platform with a flagship content that was then aired on TV the next day. So we did it 24 hours before. And what we did is we gave the possibility to binge the entire season 24 hours before, while the linear channel was basically showing 2 episodes at a time, week after week. So those are kind of ways around the system we can find. And we see, nevertheless, that there is an audience for this. And we would love to have, of course, exclusive content for OTT platform. And nevertheless, we have those rules. But what we see, and maybe that's just the last point on that topic, is that we have opportunities in making partnerships. We are partnering with cultural events, with film festivals. We are also partnering with other public media companies in Europe to exchange programs. And this is a window onto content that other players don't have in the country. So we have we're finding basic ways to bring more content, if not exclusive, to the audience.
Yeah, so you can see there's still that little bit extra on Play Swiss that you can't at least yet find on the broadcast TV channels. Arturo, what's the role of exclusive content just produced for OTT at Atresmedia?
Yeah, I think that following with the previous thought that I shared, is like price discrimination. Obviously, exclusive content is one of the variables of what is your value proposition, regarding this new product. When you think about 2 different sneakers or Nike sneakers that have different prices, it's not about being built in different factories or something like that. It's about, different value propositions in terms of design or material or whatever. So, exclusive content for SVOD, for our SVOD proposition, is one of the variables. Obviously, it's one of the main drivers of subscribers obviously, because it's a content that you just can't find there. So it's something that you have to empower. But the truth is that you cannot just only rely on exclusive content, because you know, as broadcasters, we spend on average like 400 million euros in content. Atresmedia spend more than 400 million euros per year in content. So if you think about the amount of money that we will dedicate to original content, it will be a tiny part of this overall amount of money that we spend in content, or we invest in content, better say. So the other variable that we have taken into account is the windowing. You know, the windowing mechanism, just to exploit properly and to be able to give to our viewers or possible subscribers a good value proposition. So you have to manage with these two kind of variables. It's about what kind of content is original and exclusive on this platform, and what kind of windowing mechanism can I do with the content that I made, to get as much value as possible on the SVOD offering, and afterwards giving to the free offering and things like that. And the third variable, obviously, is the advertising load. And I think that these are the three variables that we have to balance in our value proposition and overall.
Okay, Ricardo, the role of exclusivity at Media Capital's OTT service.
I mean, not much to add here. I mean, I think all the hundreds of OTTs have the same issue. You have to balance how much you want to spend on original content that really pays off. And it's not an easy equation to solve. It's not easy to say, okay, let's spend X money in this just to get more X% of subscribers. You don't definitely know before. So you really need to try it out, but you need to be careful, specifically on the economics nowadays, and definitely for next year. But I think that we sometimes compare ourselves so many times with big OTTs, with Disney and Netflix and HBO, which are different approaches. So it's very important that internally, all the teams involved, horizontally and vertically, we have an understanding on the OTT types of approaches. And I think this conference is really important, and like you just shared in the beginning, all the agenda for today, because as we are all seeing, it's not one size fits all, like, okay, let's just do what Netflix does but in Portuguese. It's not possible. No one has that huge amounts of money. Like Arturo was just saying, we still need to balance our sheets, our economic sheets in the end of the year, and our markets vary. So for us, it's becoming interesting, the international market, because we have a lot of Portuguese outside that are willing to pay, while inside Portugal, for a 10 million people market that already has a huge offer, where telcos already, some of them offer subscriptions for 2 years for Amazon Prime, for instance, or HBO. So then you have a lot of content that has to make you think, where will I spend on the exclusive in order to be profitable? Because in the end, this is not just about getting like 10 or 100,000 subscribers more. In the end, it's about getting at the end of the journey and being profitable. So that's why you see a lot of people trying to get the best writers on fiction, because it gives you more longevity, and you can have the windowing for 1 year exclusive in OTT, but still it will be a good content for year number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or maybe 10 years, while humor or contests or specific news approaches are more delicate, because the investment rapidly fades out because it loses interest. So it's really interesting to see that suddenly we all search locally to have a difference, but we all search for the same types of talent because it's not like thousands and thousands of people. So there is a good opportunity, and we have to do a bigger effort on discovering new talent because, of course, everyone is trying to get the same. So that makes a gold rush in nowadays.
Absolutely. And but let's refocus now from the perspective of the operator to the viewers, the consumers. Obviously, we've been talking about exclusive content, local content, and but what's the viewer, or the long tail of content, archive content? What's the viewer really interested in? I mean, you must have some examples, some usage figures, and looking at how the services are used. I'm addressing you, Pierre, despite the service just 11 days old, but you have the first statistics, I'm sure. Is the viewer really interested in exclusive content or local content? Exclusive content, Pierre, I mean, the kind of 24 hours pre-debut you've been talking about. Is it local content, local Swiss content? Is it more the general content like American series? Or is it just plain linear channels? Because what we haven't been talking about is yet obviously on OTT, it's not just about non-linear. On OTT, you also offer just classic streaming of your broadcast services. And coming from Germany, I know that to the surprise of many of those players on the OTT platforms, a lot of viewing time just is devoted to watching normal linear broadcast TV. Pierre, is that some of the experience you've made as well? What's the viewer really interested in, despite your service still being very young?
Yeah. First of all, thanks. First of all, we do not have linear streaming proposition on Play Suisse. This was from the very beginning something we didn't want to add, and we leave this to the broadcasters' websites. What we see, and what I'm really convinced, is that content does not have that much of an date, a peremption date, so to say. We are seeing that as we organize content by themes and categories and funnel people through our recommendations, editorial and automatic recommendation, they are consuming content from years ago just because there is a documentary about something that's interesting for them that they did not see before. They were not exposed to the entire catalog that we're in a way we're exposing it today. And to me, yes, fresh content, exclusive content is of course important to drive new traffic, but retention also is to be done with the archive. And working the archive is not a small piece of work, is actually something that has to be curated. You have to editorialize, you have to work on your recos, you have to promote it. And a lot of broadcasters are just sitting on a treasure, but not exploiting it. And this is a lot of what we're trying to do as well.
The archive as a gold mine, but obviously you can't just put it online. You need to tag it. There needs to be metadata and all sorts of things to be able for viewers to discover those treasures. Arturo, what's your experience in Spain? What's the viewer interested in OTT? As I've just said, is it exclusive or local content? Is it just linear broadcasting? Is it the archive, the gold mine, or a combination of all of it?
I think that the short answer is a combination of.
I've made it too easy for you.
No, I can explain a little more.
Okay.
But yeah, I think if you just rely on exclusive content, the main problem that you have is that you have two ways, or you spend a lot of money in that original content, as we have said, or otherwise you will gain a lot of subscribers, you know, it will be a driver of subscribers, but the churn will rise a lot, you know, because the people will see that content that they have, you know, that was what attracted them to your platform. But, you know, after a month or even sooner, you know, there is a lot of people that just sign out of the subscription in the first day, in the first 24 hours, you know, those that they just want to cherry pick that content and they just
then they say goodbye.
Yeah. So if you just rely on that, you know, that I think that from my point of view is unsustainable. So you, as you say, it's a combination. If you have a good depth of catalog, and you have a, you know, after all, if you can retain people on your platform watching your content and they perceive the value of your platform, of that subscription, you know, that's the way then you will have a long-term relationship with your subscribers. So you have to use original content as a driver, and you have to try to add as much original content during the years. You have to do some kind of multi-year planning for your original content, understanding that the more you have, the better it will perform. But you have also to rely and exploit your archive, as you have said. You know, there's a lot of people that there are some kind of funny surprises by which you see that there is content that you think that it was like 10 years ago, and actually there's people that come to your platform and watch it on a regular basis. So, funny surprises.
Some hidden jewels in the gold mine. Yeah. Ricardo, what's the gold mine in Portugal on OTT?
So we have a combination, and definitely we have found that good content travels through time. So we have like 8 years ago productions that are in the top 10 most viewed contents, definitely. And I mean, interesting enough, sometimes we think about it and say, oh, this was a huge success some years ago. Everyone has seen it. Probably it won't work. It will be just for those tiny fractions that haven't seen it. But suddenly we put it online, we promote it, and there is a bunch of people watching it. Interesting. Some of them are watching it twice. Another thing that we did is to re-edit some products. So for instance, we in Portugal watch novellas, soap operas a lot. So each novella has like 200 episodes. So we are re-editing some of them instead of 200 to 80 episodes in like 3 seasons. And it's working really well because of course, this has a lot of work to do with the scripting and then the editing, but suddenly it pays off because it's adapted better to the on-demand experience. And also we have live channels that I totally understand the Netflix approach in France, and probably we will be more, I mean, there was a question here that why is Disney putting the movies prior to the release in the theaters? And I mean, we are all learning, okay? So even Disney is learning. This is not just about coronavirus. This is about a new way of distributing and getting to customers. And I mean, we are going to see more and more complex environments. I mean, probably there will be one-time only live experiences in our OTTs, in Disney, in Netflix, like one day off or regular. Because I mean, for all of us, in the end, it's all about the net profit, not the gross. So yes, they have a lot of thousands of theaters around the world and they make a lot of money, but they also have a lot of costs. And like Arturo was saying, we need to understand and to try it out, the windowing. What do I gain? What do I lose? How can I capture new subscribers? But how can I maintain people go to theaters? There will be, I believe, a more not so, I mean, today is really straightforward, right? So you have on demand on one side, sports and live on the other side. And it will be much more interesting in 2 to 3 years now, because you will have live experiences, TVOD we haven't spoken about, but definitely the question around the movies in Disney, it's just one step that everybody will do, because yes, it will be like Arturo and Pierre was saying, that we will have different prices. You have AVOD, you have SVOD with advertising, you have SVOD without advertising, you have TVOD plus. So, I mean, this is not for the SVOD, you need to pay an extra. You will have immersive experience with live events that probably you will have to decide you do for the subscribers or you have to pay. So definitely we are here in a very interesting moment that it's going to speed up in 2021 in this complexity.
Absolutely, Ricardo. It's all about experimenting in different areas. But coming back to the keywords you've mentioned, AVOD, SVOD, TVOD, where's Media Capital standing? I mean, are you offering all of these kinds of different monetization, and are we in the monetization part of the business opportunities, or are you just focusing on SVOD or AVOD or both?
We are studying the TVOD definitely, specifically for, like I was saying, specific content or specific live events, because we cannot just stick to the SVOD and AVOD. We need to explore other ways, because for some types of content, it will be more interesting to have a first window with TVOD, or sometimes it's not even possible to put it because of the complexity of rights, etc. in an S, because you cannot say, I will have this for 1 year. I can only have this for a specific narrow window.
So it's about exploring different opportunities. From Pierre, we've already heard that obviously SRG being a public broadcaster, you can't have subscription services or advertising services on OTT. It's an add-on service, part of or financed through the public license fee. But with Arturo being a commercial operator, things are different. So what's to refocus on the buzzwords AVOD, SVOD, TVOD? What's the sort of area you're working in, or your perspectives on this?
Sorry, I lost the signal for a while.
Okay, AVOD, SVOD, TVOD, all of them or just one of them?
Short answer, no. I think we are more focused on AVOD, SVOD.
Okay.
TVOD, I think that we tried in the very beginning of our continuous trial, as Ricardo has said, and I think that right now we will more focus on SVOD and AVOD and try to balance them. I think TVOD is more for big hits, more related to the content that you will broadcast in the cinema. It's more related to the cinema windowing. So far we have some kind of cinema movies, but it's not on our on our core business, I would say.
Okay, we have just a couple of minutes left, so I want to address a final question to all of you, and I'm going to stay with you, Arturo, because we all know that in Spain there is a service called Nextv. That is a joint OTT service by different players. And so the question is, from your perspective, being a public broadcaster in Switzerland with Pierre, or commercial operators in Spain and Portugal, does it make sense to join forces, public broadcasters, commercial broadcasters, to have a joint platform? We've seen initiatives like this with Freeview in the UK, or with the recently launched Salto service in France. So do you think this makes sense to combat the challenge of the Netflixes, Amazons, Disneys of this world? Or do you rather follow your own kind of exclusive walled garden approach to make sure that the viewers stay within your brand, Arturo? What's the experience you've made?
Yeah, I think Nextv is a good example of the approaches and challenges that we have there. Actually, you have said that Nextv is an OTT. It is not an OTT platform. It's an SVOD platform. you know, we in the very beginning of the project we aim to become an OTT, but that second stage is already standby. You know, why? Because of the challenges to go together, you know, are big. So, but the truth is that the advantages of the possibilities of going together are also big, and my particular opinion are even bigger, I would say. So we are definitely we will have to partner, and I truly believe in partnerships, and we have to partner. I think in the near future we will have to partner almost with everyone. It depends on the purpose of this partnership, but at the end is we will have to partner. So far, I think that you know, in the current environment, it makes more sense because of this local content appeal that Pierre was talking in the very beginning, to think about local partnerships, you know, regarding content. But there is another kind of partnerships. If you think about something more cultural agnostic, I will say, of technology platforms and things like that, maybe it makes more sense to try to gain economies of scale through European partnerships. So right now, what my feeling is that we are, you know, looking everywhere, try to partner with, you know, those companies or those groups or those stakeholders that you have more strategic fit. But I really don't know how will be the partners in the futures or the partnerships in the future, but I definitely think that there will be. You know, we will, as Ricardo is the same as Ricardo has said regarding content and our own properties. We are learning, and we will try a lot of partnerships, and we will, at the end, we will find the correct ones. I mean, that's for sure.
So it's all about partnerships. It's all about learning, whether it's on a domestic scale or European scale. Ricardo, what's the situation like in Portugal? Can you resemble that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a good understanding in other types of projects of the value of partnerships. Again, we are not that many. So basically we are 3 in Portugal. So the public service plus 2 big national. So then there are smaller ones. But it's in a conceptual way, it makes sense. But again, it all comes to what's the value proposition in terms of the strategy as content for the users. How does this combine to each one OTT? So in the end, will it be something that will make us to give up from our own OTTs, or it will be something that is a complement in terms of offering? That's the big question, because if it's just basically gathering all the catalog and putting in a new OTT and switching off each one's OTT, I think it will not be possible. So in the end, what do you put there? What's the value? What's the complement that you have with your own offer?
So in the end, partnerships do make sense, but only if they create additional value and have a benefit for the viewers. Pierre, what's the situation like in Switzerland? Can you imagine combining Play Swiss with commercial operations? Your microphone is switched off, Pierre.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think we're open at both private and commercial partnerships. I think as long as it's in the spirit of public service and enlarging the cultural horizon of our audience. So it's really about complementing our catalog, putting a window onto new topics and themes that we're not yet addressing, and finding the right balance between between commercial content and purely cultural content. But yeah, definitely open, and we're working on some of really great partnerships already.
Thank you very much for this clear message at the end. So partnerships do make sense. You're all open towards them, but they do have to make sense in a commercial and obviously in a way of creating a benefit and additional value for the viewers. Thank you very much, Pierre from SRG in Switzerland, Arturo from Atresmedia in Spain, and Ricardo from Media Capital in Portugal. Hope to see you soon again, and we're going to continue at 10:35 with the next panel. Thank you very much for joining us today. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jörn.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye,
for having us.
everybody.